Welcome, friends, to our second episode of Season 3 of the Holy Roast podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Rachel, and
Rob.
And we're so glad you're joining us today. We have a very special guest with us. And before I introduce her, I want to go ahead and just remind you of how helpful it is when you like and share and comment on these episodes. If there's something that you thought was interesting or you have a question about, we would love to hear from you, and we'd love for you to share it with other people in this annual conference and beyond. So thanks for joining us for this season and supporting us in this Holy Roast endeavor. And so today, we have a very special guest with us. We are very happy to welcome our Chief Ministry Officer. Is that right? That's right. Yes. The Reverend Tami Coleman, who is with us today. Thanks for making the trip and for being with us.
Well, I am
here
honored and humbled to be asked back to come and just share with the Holy Roast.
Yeah.
A two-time guest.
I was going to say, she's our first repeat. Nope, Bishop.
Nope, Bishop.
Bishop. Okay,
well, it's just you and Bishop.
That's fitting.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Good company there.
Yes. So thank you, Tami. Throughout your 27 years of ministry, I know you've served in so many different roles, from the local church to conference staff to now Chief Ministry Officer. And you've been in this role since officially July 1.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Probably a little before then, a little too, but as the transition happens, so a few months under your belt, I'm wondering if you can just share with us, maybe some folks are still wondering, what exactly does that job entail? What does it mean to be the Chief Ministry Officer?
Well, I just want to first say, in case anyone's wondering, since you said how many years I've been in ministry, I started when I was 27. I started when I was 10. When you were 27, there we go. So I knew totally flubbed that up.
We were right along. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, it has been an interesting journey, those 27 years, and just the different places, you know. So started in South Georgia, served in Eastern Kentucky for 4 years. That was my first appointment here, and then conference staff, and, now we've lived in Western Kentucky for 11 years.
Wow.
And so since 2014. And so I'm not doing well with my numbers today. But every piece along the way has prepared me for this next thing, right? And I could just see how God has worked with me, through me, just preparing me for the Chief Ministry Officer. So you asked, what is that? Yeah. It's a great question. And I think we're still trying to figure out some of the nitty gritty of it. But in overarching, it's assistant to the bishop. It's director of ministerial services, and we've had that role before. But because we share an Episcopal leader now with other conferences, we need someone who kind of keeps their eye on the ball and just kind of moves everything forward together. And so helping with intentional collaboration with our conference staff, with our pastors, with our laity, and just especially around the priorities. Here are the 5 priorities that we have said we want to focus on, that Bishop has pulled together, and just making sure that they're not just words, but how do we begin to live into them? And so that's a big part of my role of what I'm doing.
Thank you for that. I think I'm so excited for this position, but especially you mentioned that intentional collaboration among our conference leaders, whether it's staff, the ministry teams. We are a different size than we used to be, and yet, we still can't work out of these silos that we've talked about. And I see that you all have been intentional. It's just encouraging to me that we have someone sort of full-time with their eye on that, of collaborating across our conference and our teams. And that, priority summit back in August, I think was an indicator of that intentionality. And I got to participate in that day and, vision around these priorities. And I know from work on our team, you've talked about next steps following up. We had the ascent to the summit, and now, how do we do, what's the next step? And so thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm encouraged by that.
Did you ever imagine that you would be in this position? Because when you think of like your scope of ministry, different contexts, different locations, different roles, and we have a lot of conversations around calling on this podcast, which I dearly love. And how does this fit into your calling as you have been formed as a pastor for so many years, whether you started at 12 or 27, I'm not sure, right?
Right, yes. Whatever age I started, right? It's interesting. My strengths and my gifts are around relationships. And so I love to build relationships. And I think that relationships trumps everything else in some ways. Like if you have a relationship with someone, you can figure out the systems and you can figure out processes, which are just as important. And so I've been doing a lot of work with my Clifton strengths recently with my dissertation that I've been working on. And so it's interesting how my emphasis on relationships, my strengths in relationship building, but then also about executing. And so like one of my strengths is an arranger. And so I can see all the pieces and parts and how we need to move them around so that we begin to execute what we say we want to do. And so I never dreamed that I would be in this role, never, aspired to do it, but I can again just see how the Lord has equipped for such a time as this, right? So
shaped you in so many different, from the local church to conference staff, Connectional Ministries, which is what you're talking about, right? With systems and collaborating across teams and things like that.
Right.
That's great. So kind of, leading off of that, as you, did you say an arranger? Is that one
arranger? That's one of the strengths.
I've taken the Clifton strength, but that wasn't one of mine. So I don't know what all 52?
34.
34.
Yes.
Numbers are hard.
Yes, numbers are hard.
Got a lot of fact checkers out there, so
we are not accountants for a reason, right?
I did score high on relationships, and no one is shocked. Nothing administrative was in those top ones.
Yes.
Anyways, you've said that your vision is for healthy and vibrant churches, clergy, and conference staff. And so you can see all of the pieces, and you can see this vision. And I know you're working to execute that. But what does a healthy church or a healthy clergy culture, especially, look like to you in this moment in the church's life?
I go back to a book I read a number of years ago. Patrick Lencioni's The Ideal Team Player. And it's a real short, it's a fable. If you get the abridged version or the cleaned up version, then just don't be offended by it, because he uses some words. Continues to use a word opposite of what an ideal team player is.
Yeah, sure.
So, but what he talks about is that an ideal team player, which, we all need to be team members, right? And they're humble and they're hungry and they're smart. And so that, I think right now we're in a season where we've just been humbled in many ways, and we need to continue to be humbled. The things that we've always relied on, our buildings, our programs, the things that we've kind of said, this is who we are, they're not there anymore necessarily, and they're good things, but that's not where we need to rely on. Yeah. So I think just humbling ourselves before the Lord and saying, we really need to just focus on you again, Jesus, and not on the things that we thought we should have been doing. And so just humbling ourselves, saying we need each other, saying we depend upon each other, in a different way. So hungry, which is just a passion. Like, I would love for us to really just have a passion again for who Jesus is, for the gospel, for living out that gospel, what the true gospel is.
The true gospel.
And not what we have made it to be. And so just a rediscovery around that, and just being sold out for that in a way that I think we kind of hang back and, say, I don't know, but just being all in for him. And then the last one is smart, and it's not necessarily intelligent smart, but it's just how do you read a room? How do you relate with people?
Yeah.
How it's that emotionally healthy piece around things, but how do you have conversations with people that you're going to disagree with, and that you don't have to argue and fight, but just be at peace with one another and just say we're going to disagree around this. Yeah. That builds the kingdom more than I got to be right all the time. Yeah. So I think that we just have a unique opportunity right now to live into those things. And I think that's part of being healthy, is just that, willing to be humble, hungry, and smart. So I keep going back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's... And that passion piece for the true gospel, you talk about how we've kind of hung back, and what we see is a dominant narrative right now about what church is, right. And it's not the true gospel, right? It's grasping for power. It's wanting to be in charge. It's wanting everybody to think and be like them, and that's, I think, as we've kind of stepped back, that's become the dominant narrative that. Folks that are unchurched or dechurched or whatever, like, they don't want to be a part of that. Right. You know what I mean? They don't, those aren't lining up with the Christian values of Jesus and his humility, right? Who didn't come to establish a kingdom here, right?
Came to serve.
But came to serve the least, the last, the lost, right? To humble himself. And so, it's amazing. You talk about being in this opportunity of like, what we have to offer, what the true gospel does offer, it's good news for all people.
Yes. Yes.
And I think if that were being shared, it's the loudest voices that get the attention. But if that were being shared, I mean, that's a really compelling story that is still true, I think, that the world needs.
Yeah, I read devotionally in the last few days, and I'm not going to be able to quote it exactly, but the author was saying, like, if we were truly living out Jesus, people wouldn't, they would flock to be a part of that, and so, just our prayer and our hope is that we become more and more like him, so that people will want not what they see on TV, not what they hear on social media or see there, but what is the true Jesus that we can share?
Yeah. And it's in like real in-person community connection relationships, right? That's where it's lived out.
Yeah.
When one of my days when I was doom scrolling as one does on Instagram, I came across this influencer that is like, based in New York City. And I'm sorry for this aside, but I think it's quite interesting. You can disagree. But I came across this influencer, and what he does is he's just acknowledging that the fast-paced life of New York, people go to work and then they go home to their apartments and they are very isolated. They maybe have smaller apartments, they don't host a lot of people. Like, there's not third spaces where people are gathering, where community is being formed. And it's all of these young people that were starting out who felt like alone in this ginormous city. And so he started like setting people up like strangers on blind friend dates. And also a few romantic dates, but most of it was like group outings with like-minded, or maybe you have a similar interests. And his whole point of this little ad was like, because third spaces don't exist anymore. And this need for community. And I thought, that's what the church should be.
That's what we should be doing.
We should be a third space where people can gather who are not all like-minded or look the same or vote the same or think the same, but they can agree to disagree,
right?
But love Jesus and want to serve Jesus and serve their community together.
And be loved.
Yes.
For who they are.
To have that belonging.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, as he was describing this, I'm like, well, that's how the church functioned for me growing up. And even if the programs look different, the church can still be that today. We just maybe need to be a little more creative
how to do that.
About how we're
and how we get that narrative out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
We just hired a media and marketing director at my local church, which is an interesting title. It makes it sound really fancy, but we've had to restructure who we are as a staff and who we are as a church, and part of that is we need better PR to an extent, right? Like the stories are being told are not life-giving stories, and so how do we become part of the life-giving narrative?
Yes.
And to share that kind of story, because when we're hiring somebody, we hired somebody from the secular world, doesn't know, has attended church, but really has never worked at church before. Has worked in some nonprofit businesses, but otherwise like some pretty big corporate type stuff. And when I'm having a conversation with her, she's like, how have you told that story in the past? I was like, well, we haven't, like we sent an email. She's like, that's it? I was like, this is some pretty cool things you are doing and enacting in the world, but no one knows about it, right? So some of it's the good PR that we need to get out. And then the other part, I really like John Mark Comer as of late. And like, we may not agree theologically on lots of things, but we agree on the core essentials. And his writing has just enlivened me a little bit more. And his whole, like, we need to be with Jesus, be like Jesus, and do as Jesus did. Like, we've overcomplicated that
whole
realm,
thing.
right?
Yes.
And so if you combine those with like Wesleyan practices, I'm gonna get a little nerdy, like that just like that's a hope for the world, you know, like who wouldn't want to be a part of that?
Yes.
But also simple living, like in such a
that's right.
chaotic and busy world for me in this life stage, like it's really like encouraging and kind of like I like get like almost want a relief, like a breath of like, oh, okay. When you're like, no, but it's a simple living that
right.
Jesus calls us to, and we have overcomplicated it.
We're sharing
made
meals, we're serving the poor, we're you know,
just the art of gathering, the art of community, the art of around Jesus Christ as Lord. You know, you mentioned telling the story, you know, in terms of communication or PR. You know, I think churches struggle internally with that. You know, regardless of who gets the word out outside of your church, which I think is what you're trying to do as well. Like if something encouraging happens in my church, I like maybe will mention it in a sermon if I remember. But if you're not there that Sunday,
then you don't hear it.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I have a relatively small church, and like they're all the time. They're like, we didn't know that was we didn't know that was going on, and that's kind of on me.
Was it on the bulletin?
As lead, we don't have a bulletin.
Oh, well, shame on.
That's kind of on me as like lead communicator.
Right.
I'm the one who's
yes.
entrusted with the story to steward the story of these people, of the people of God in the gospel, right?
Yeah, it was good.
It's interesting. You know, we just had listening sessions. Our DSs just had listening sessions where they asked questions. And so I was compiling all the information gathered from all the listening sessions. Wow. And one of the things that came up is about communication. I mean, like, we can't communicate enough. And we have an exceptional director of communications now. And she's just looking for ways to tell our story in creative and new ways. But one of the AI generated, because I threw all the comments into AI and it just compiled it all, which was like amazing.
Tammy.
I know.
Okay.
It's so
Al
amazing.
Tompkins is so proud of you right now.
He really is, isn't he? But anyway, it's like that communication is ministry.
Yes.
And do we see communication as ministry? And like we do, because we preach every Sunday morning. Like, and we have worship. But beyond that, do we see that communication is a form of ministry?
When it's how we celebrate together.
It is.
And, you know, I'm one of those old souls that kind of recoils at the word like marketing when it's associated with church, because then it feels like we're trying to sell something. And you're like, no, we have a story to tell.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what we're doing. And you're trying to get it. We have good news to tell. And you're trying to get that word beyond your internal structure. And so the fact that you've hired someone from the secular world, I think is brilliant, because they will have experience and giftings and a skill set well beyond maybe what most of our churches have provided.
That's right. And our story isn't complete without you. You know, that's part of the invitational nature. Yeah, it's just you, Rachel. But it's not, though. You know, as we communicate that, like, we do have really, really good news to share, and that good news is always invitational. Right? Invitational to apprenticeship. It's invitational to a way of life, a rule of life. That is, I mean, if you want to combat isolation and loneliness and all these things.
Mental health.
For the
youth, right?
Mental health and well-being.
Like, we got to get back to that core value. And I think in this season, there's no better time and essential to be able to do that now.
Getting off the algorithms and dark corners of the internet into real in-person community and connection. That's going to...
Because in loneliness an epidemic now, and they've determined it. They've just named it. So,
Absolutely. Well, we've kind of talked around it. We know that we as a Kentucky Annual Conference have been through just a long season of transition.
I don't know what you're talking about.
A lot of change. I don't know. It feels like the last 5 years have been 20 years. But what gives you hope right now as you look toward this next chapter for our conference and even the United Methodist Church as a whole? What's giving you hope?
I think that there's a lot to be hopeful for. And I think that, you know, in many ways, people have said like COVID and disaffiliation have just accelerated what was eventually going to come, right? And
It's already there.
It was already there, and it just has accelerated it. And so I think this gives us the opportunity, and I said this at annual conference, to turn the page. Like we have this new season. We don't have to do anything that we've always done before because we don't have the resources that we used to have. And so there's kind of this blank slate, and it's scary, but it's also hopeful.
Kind of liberating,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
I feel
Like-
like, yeah.
Like, let's do things differently. Let's create some structures and systems or processes that are life-giving and that are not just about survival. And I know it feels that way right now. Like, how are we just going to survive? But how do we begin to thrive? How do we take that next step? And so, there's still a lot of changes probably to come around that. But I think if I get the hope that we're all in this together and that we're willing to make the changes necessary. And, we may not all agree with it. And, we're trying to navigate all of that. But how do we do that in a way that really sets us up for moving forward in a fruitful way that helps us communicate and helps us encourage and combat loneliness and create community, and I just think that the possibilities are just really there. So, and I get the privilege of hearing from so many of our pastors and lay people and our district superintendents who are on the ground, hearing from their pastors and laity, just how God is doing amazing things in our churches.
Yeah.
I mean, there's baptisms happening and there's people coming to Christ and there are people joining the church and there are people who are longing to be a part of what we are offering. And so I think that's important to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any of those stories that stick out with you that you want to share with our listeners today? I mean, is there like a church or a leader that you just find so much hope in that, because that's a really cool, the part of like being able to be at the balcony and see all the wonderful things where sometimes we get stuck
Yes.
and just
our own
and just
little-
us.
Yes.
And sometimes we need hope from afar, and you kind of get this privilege in this
Yeah.
position to take that balcony view to
Listen,
see
it's
it.
church conference season,
Yeah.
and we've been reducing the budget every
What do you
year and
mean?
every,
That's not
and
the
I'm
most
like,
hopeful
oh
thing
my
you've ever
goodness,
been
I
through?
could use some good news right now.
Well,
Yeah.
I think, just hearing about, Rob was telling about baptisms that are going to happen at Watkins, between now and the end of the year. St. Matthew's had a number of baptisms recently. Yesterday we had a ministry staff call and Kim Pope Cyberling was over in the Ashland area and Ashland First is the chocolate church. Do y'all know about the chocolate church?
No.
What?
I like
Do they-
it
So,
already.
Do they want to
Is
do
there
a
a
pulpit
appointment
swap?
open?
Can we do a pulpit swap? I can just for a
So
Sunday.
it looks like the chocolate church, and it is a beautiful church, but they call it the chocolate
So
church.
it literally looks like
Because it's just all
literally-
brown.
Yes, but it's like the chocolate color, and so in the community, it's known as the chocolate church. So I can't say Ashland First without saying the chocolate church.
Do they have anything to do with like real chocolate though? Like is that
I
like
don't
a great
know.
visitor
That's a
gift?
great question. Ask Jeff Bramble.
Some
Jeff.
churches give out like
Mugs. You need to
mints when they
fill
come
it
in.
with Dove
Chocolate.
chocolate. Just
Yes.
fill it all the way with
We are the
chocolate.
chocolate
I am totally
church.
throwing Jeff under the bus.
Can you 3D print that mold?
Jeff, I'm going to call you on my way home. Yeah.
So, but they have started a new youth service on Sunday nights, and just how amazing that is going, and how they've had a lot of turnover around it, but still reaching the next generation. And so, hearing those kind of stories, and I'm leaving out a lot because I know that there's a lot going on in our conference, but just hearing all the things that are happening, it's just so encouraging, and that's what I probably should do, is just make a list of these things and just put it on Facebook and just say especially on our pastor's page, like, here are some of the stories I hear, and it's just so encouraging that, God is still moving in great ways. So, and it's hard work, right? Yeah. But when you see the fruit and, you just,
you a little bit.
it does. Yeah.
And I wonder if we can make that a task of sorts of us local church pastors just to share that between each other too.
Yes.
Part of this want of this podcast was to be two pastors who regularly get coffee anyways to extend the table, right? And the people we bring on is like, hey, you're having coffee with us, and then we're inviting our listeners to come alongside with that. We need to be doing that, you know? And sometimes the busyness of life overtakes you, personal, professional. I mean, we have all these excuses of why we're not, but some of the most fruitful conversations I've had is when someone's really energized about something, and it may not be my thing, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Maybe you can just start by, if you have a good news, something cool and exciting to share, like drop it in the comments of this post when the episode. I mean, we don't need to be braggadocious about it. Just kidding. But no, I'm serious. Sometimes it can feel that way when you get a bunch of clergy together.
Sure,
That's not what we're talking about.
We're not talking about competition.
No, we're not.
just
We're in
talking
this
about-
together. It's not competition. We're in this together. What is something good that's happening in your local church right now? What is something that's energized you or you're excited about? Numbers aside. In fact, I challenge you to not include numbers in
Just
the post.
transformation.
Yeah.
Because if one person has come to your church or been baptized like that, then it's worth it,
Yeah.
right? If it's one story of transformation, then that is what we're celebrating. So I encourage you to drop it in the comments.
Yeah, and I think that goes around, our pastors. We feel weary right now. I mean, there's just a lot that we're having to process and just navigate. And so I would say, just around that, just celebrate the small wins.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're used to the grand things, right? And it has to be big and bold. But I just know, having served in the local church, sometimes it is the little things that you just, nobody knows but you and Jesus that you've kind of wrestled with this.
Yeah.
And then you see it happening and you're like,
absolutely.
okay, Lord, you do see me, you do see this church. You do see, that we're having to reduce budgets and, all the things. But yet, here comes the visitor that you never thought would come in, or here comes the extra gift at the end of the year that you didn't anticipate, or here, just the little things that happen that you just celebrate and say,
absolutely.
Ability to celebrate.
yeah.
And this is a plug for because I'm preaching on this Sunday, that's why it's fresh. If you have not read Think Red by Larry Stess, please get that book.
Yeah.
And there's a whole chapter on small beginnings and how the kingdom, the nature of the kingdom
Is about small.
is the mustard seed.
Yes.
Right? It's the small things, the small victories. The world wants it big and great and, powerful and dominant. And that actually the kingdom comes in these surprising, subversive, lovely ways that are so life-giving.
Yeah.
And so that book can save you in a season of ministry. It's so good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Zach Lambert, who we'll have on the podcast soon, he's pastor at Restore Austin, a church that was non-denominational, is becoming United Methodist. He's becoming United Methodist clergy. He's doing his D-Min at Duke Divinity School. Just a plug there for Duke Divinity
goodness,
School.
there
Gotta
we
put
go.
Which
that
I
out
was
there.
just there.
Oh, yeah?
I was, yes.
How was the
I know.
Holy of Holies?
Don't I look like
You
I
do. You look, you're glowing.
fresh?
Glowing.
Yes.
Did you go to the beach? You were so visiting students?
Visiting
For
students.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Do we have current Kentucky students there?
We do. Yes.
There we go.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
talk. But anyway, yes, it was really great. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Eliza and I went. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So saw the Divinity School. That's great.
I did.
Saw Duke Chapel.
I
Did you
did.
see Cameron Indoor Stadium?
I
The
did
Holy of
not.
Holies.
Good.
I know.
Good. You just
Eliza, shame.
I know she didn't take me over there. No, we just didn't have time.
Was that your first time on campus?
Years ago,
Okay.
like I was in high school, youth choir tour. We used to do those things. And so we went by there, and I remember taking our picture outside the chapel and seeing the chapel, but it's been a long time. So it was just beautiful. It looks like a retreat center and not a campus. You know,
Retreat center full of nerds, though. I'm telling you what.
Yeah.
There's
They retreat from a lot of things. I did.
it's a fascinating place for human study. Is there anything you learned about current students? I'm just curious. We didn't write this down, but as you met with students and walked the campus, anything you learned while you were being there around them?
I think it goes back to relationships, right? And it's, sometimes you just have to begin to build relationships with people and just hear their stories. Love hearing where they how God has brought them to this place and how they have, landed where they are and what their interests are and, what they're passionate about. And so I think that was just revigorating.
Encouraging.
Just
well, and
to
when we
hear.
were there a while ago, Duke had the lowest median age, the youngest median age for one of our seminaries. And so I'm sort of assuming, but I'm sure it's exciting and inspiring to be around young people who are saying, yes, this is what I want to study.
Right.
I mean, Duke has introduced a lot of different degrees now, so you can serve beyond the local church, but still in this ministry context in a changing world. And I just have to imagine that all of that energy in those conversations was encouraging.
Yeah.
Anytime a young person's like, yeah, sure.
You're like, you're sure?
I say yes.
We're like, all right.
You also went to Candler School of Theology,
I did
though,
also
right?
go to Candler, yes. So in the last 2 weeks, been to both of those. So yeah,
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you
was
for doing
fun.
that.
Yeah.
Going back to
I didn't mean
Duke
to
real
interrupt
quick.
you, yeah.
No, it's great,
Yeah.
but I had to make sure we put Candler out there because I don't want to get
Yes.
some more hate mail about.
This is the
Duke.
first time in
Yeah.
season 3 that we've mentioned Duke Divinity
We're in the second
School, so
episode. It's only the first time, though, people. Calm down.
it's not that long of a
But
segment.
Zach, if you don't know, published author now, becoming United Methodist, great stories out there. We're going to have him on the podcast to talk about that. But one of his things that he does in his local church is he has a moment of good news, right? So they just go around and they share as a congregation. Hey, what's some good news you want to share with our community?
Every week.
Every week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Every week. And I just love that. Love that pattern.
So I visited a church on Sunday, and they have just started doing that.
Wow.
A moment
Yeah.
of
Love
good news.
that.
Yeah. And so people were just sharing different things, and it was beautiful. I felt like I was able to kind of get a sense of who they are, and
A little bit different than like the oversharing of pastoral care concerns, whatever,
Right.
where
The
you're like,
prayer time.
I don't think your neighbor wanted you to share about what she's going through right now. It's like the good news, just maybe a different method to the madness.
exactly.
That's awesome. Well, this has been so fun. So fun.
know,
And we could
it's
spend
good.
so much time just chatting with you and talking with you because I'm just so excited that you are in this position, Tammy, and that you are the one that's helping guide us into these new seasons of transitions, but knowing there is weariness and anxiety and worry, not just within our conference, but our local churches, our country right now.
Yeah.
We're just going through it and trying to find the light can be difficult. But I wonder, and if you would share now, it's kind of our ending before the fun Holy Roast, of course, but if you could share like a minute worth of what do you want to share with our lay leaders, with our clergy, our staff? If you had a minute just to talk directly to them, what would you want them to hear?
Yeah. So I would remind us that transformation takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. We want it to be instant. We want it to be quick. We want it to be convenient. But true transformation just takes time. And I remember, I've used this illustration before, but growing up, my mother cross-stitched a saying. It was on my wall by my, as you walked out the door of my bedroom, probably more for her and my dad than for me. But it said, I think it had a picture of a little girl on it, but the saying was, please be patient with me. God isn't finished with me yet.
Wow.
And I really believe God isn't finished with us yet. And we just need to be patient. We need to be patient with each other. We need to be patient with the Lord. I mean, we want him to hurry up.
Wait on the Lord.
Yes,
Yeah.
just be patient. The thing that has held me is to remember that Jesus is still Lord of the church. That has not changed. It's not going to change. And that James Bryan Smith says we live in the strong and unshakable kingdom of God. And the kingdom is never in trouble. And it seems like everything is in trouble these days. But his kingdom is not in trouble, and therefore we're not in trouble either. Yeah. And that doesn't mean trouble where you go to the corner, but it means that we should not be anxious or disturbed either because he is still Lord.
There's
and
some
so
hopefulness and confidence in that knowledge.
Just hang on to that. So just be patient, right? Let's just be patient and allow the Lord to do his good and faithful work. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Amen to that. In fact, you shared in one of our meetings recently, you shared that same blessing, and that a couple Sundays later, I shared it to my church, like as a blessing, like you are one in whom Christ dwells.
And delights.
You are one in whom Christ delights.
Yes.
The kingdom is not in trouble, and neither are you. Yeah. So I thank you for that reminder.
Yeah.
It is timeless, right? Like I could hear that every day, and it would center and ground me again, because the kingdoms of the world are in trouble.
Right.
The kingdom of God is not, and those are not the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
Those are not the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, literally, that is what we did it as our benediction at Hanson, like all during COVID and afterward, in the season of disaffiliation, just to be reminded that
how centering.
Yes. That it didn't matter what I had said that day, if we could hold on to that. So, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, as tradition on season 3, I guess we have traditions now. The questions,
traditions, I love that.
The questions that we haven't sent you, the Holy Roast, and we've changed them. Actually, got to keep it fresh, keep it interesting, especially since you've been on before. We got to ask you something new. So, just a few. This is rapid fire. First thing that comes to your head, comes to your mind. If you could instantly master any skill, what would it be?
I would love to play the piano.
Oh.
I am not musical at all. Yeah. And so I tried to take piano lessons when I was in seminary. World-renowned organist, and I would learn my right hand, and then I could play my left hand, and he would say, now put them together.
Yeah,
and
that's hard.
There was something in my brain that just could not. And I'm like, I am wasting your time. I am wasting my time. But if I could learn something immediately, that it would be that.
You didn't even add the feet in yet.
Oh, gosh, no.
I don't know how they do that.
Organ for sure. Piano, it's just a pedal, but still,
it doesn't matter.
It's hard. Yeah.
I couldn't do that.
I'm embarrassed to admit I took lessons for 9 years, and I still can't sight read or how do you take your coffee or tea?
So I'm not a coffee drinker.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, but tea.
It's not all right, but it's okay.
I know.
We'll let it pass.
So tea, and it has to be sweet. Right?
Love it.
So can't be from Georgia and not have sweet tea.
Yeah.
A little mint. That's my favorite.
There you go.
Yeah, my mom had a mint
it fancy.
Plant that she would break off and put it in our tea, and so that kind of reminds me of home.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Who's a theologian, living or dead, you'd love to have a lunch session with?
That's a good question. So I don't know if she's considered a theologian or not, but I read some of her work years ago, but it's been a while. But Phoebe Palmer, she was revolutionary of her time.
Yeah,
she was a preacher in the mid 1800s. She started a mission. She, wrote. We think it's still an oddity for women to be in ministry, but she was out there. So I'd love to just pick her brain
ahead of that time
to see what that's like.
I'm going to come too. That's great. Okay, I'll come to lunch too.
Come on.
What's something you'd tell your younger self, but they probably wouldn't listen to?
Oh my. That you don't have to do it all. You don't have to do it all. It's okay. Things will come as needed. But I think I was so anxious that I was going to miss out on something, and so I think I would slow down. I remember my father-in-law telling me when the boys were little, you're going to miss these days, and to take time. So I tell y'all, still have littles, just take the time and be with your family. Yeah. So
thank you for that reminder. And then last question, what is bringing you joy right now?
It's a good question. I think, it's football season.
Oh, yeah.
You got a lot of joy there?
I do have some joy there. So, I just love watching football. But, when your teams do well, then it helps it. Yeah. So that's
more exciting.
And that, that's something that we all share together as a family for the most part. Yeah. So that's just fun. Even with the boys gone, we text and share together.
Connecting piece.
Commiserate sometimes. So, yeah. So it's good.
Sweet. Well, thank you. That's it. Not too bad of a roast.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for taking the time
Thanks
to
for
be
having
with
me.
us.
This was a great conversation.
It was very fun.
Yeah.
Could have. I had so many more things I want to ask you. So maybe we'll have to come back for a three-peat.
And then you would
Three.
beat the
Oh,
bishop. I don't know if we're allowed
If we
to
get
do
5
that.
times, should it be like SNL when we give people a jacket when
Ooh,
they
okay.
Holy Roast
Yeah.
jacket when they?
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess we're the hosts, but you get what I'm saying.
We need to up our budget. Are you over that? Thank
Tammy,
you.
Yeah,
yes.
Tammy, up our budget, and we'll get you a jacket.
Yeah, okay.
That's all we're
Get you a
saying.
jacket. There you go.
Sounds
Well,
great.
until next time, friends, thanks for tuning in, and be sure to like and follow and share this episode and respond to some of these questions or good stories of good news in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Love that. See you next time.